Oh, sorry, I was just dancing to the music because I could see Tommy dancing to the music, so I was like, I gotta dance to the music. So welcome, y'all know what it is. Episode 2, episode 1, we kicked it off big with DRC. Shout out to my frat bro, appreciate him coming on. Kicking it with the belt guy. That's me. It's Zain. Y'all see what it is, so that's why the name is what it is. Appreciate anyone and everyone joining us today. So as kicking it goes, the best way to kick it is just to let people tell their story, do their thing. So while players are great to interview, it's really about our community, people within our community, fans, people have grown from fans within the industry. So without other further ado, because you don't want to hear me talk, let's bring on a good friend of mine and a great individual within the industry and within the community, our very own Tommy G. Round of applause.
What's up? What's up? What's up? That was a dope intro, man. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I was on the fly, man. None of this is
awesome.
all off the top, man. So, Tommy, welcome. I appreciate having you on. It's nothing but big time. DRC, Tommy G. It's straight big time every time. So, here we go. Let's start off nice and easy. How's your day going, bro?
It's going well. Before I get started, though, I want to shout you out, man. Zain, we go back. We work together. We were on Rush together.
Sir.
You're a hard worker. I feel like me and you are always on the same page when it comes to content, whether it's tweets, whatever it is. Every time I see a tweet that you put out, I'm like, damn, I was just about to put that tweet. I was just about to put that together. So to see you flourishing, doing your own thing, having your own show, my brother, super proud of you. Thank you for having me on. It means the world to me. I wanted to get that out the way first and foremost. But to answer your question, everything's going good.
Appreciate it.
Everything's going good.
Right.
Getting ready for the draft.
That's what I'm saying. I know you got to be busy, right? We're all fans to some extent. Otherwise, why are we watching or why are we talking about the Giants? So between life, i.e., yourself, your day job, family, this now other job venture business you have with SI Giants Country. How are you maintaining, man? How is the mental? How is the grind? How are you maintaining as an individual right now?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. It's a delicate balance. I'll be honest with you. When you do anything, you never want to do it half-ass, especially, doing content, analysis. That's something that I take a lot of pride in. That's something that I don't take lightly. People that follow me, I want to make sure I give them the best viewing experience on YouTube. People that follow me on Twitter, I want to make sure I put that tight content out there, not make mistakes, not have any slip-ups in there. So it is a fine balance with everyday life and trying to do it. But like I was telling you before the show, when you do something you love and you do something you don't take lightly, you're willing to go that extra mile. You're willing to do that extra couple hours of research, at 12 a.m., 1 a.m. after, a long day. So while it's a fine balance and it's a tough balance sometimes, it's something that I enjoy, and having a voice and, having followers and a following that's passionate, that backs me up, supports me. That means the world to me. That keeps me going, keeps me pushing.
Yeah, and like you said, not just 12 a.m. It's all the time. I could be doing something in the middle. I'm gonna stop freezing time. I could be in the middle of a meeting and I got customers talking about something, and I'm gonna quickly parlay and be like, "Yo, I had this thought. Let me just go look this up real quick, or let me take a look at what's happening right there." So I feel you on that standpoint. So now that Tommy G's in the building, let's talk a little bit about Tommy G. Where does Tommy G come from? How did we get to Tommy G? Who is Tommy G? What's your origin story, man?
That's a great question. So I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York City. Shout out to Brooklyn. Throughout the course of my career, brought me out to Connecticut, and now I'm out in Connecticut. But I'll always be New York City to the heart. Always been a big fan of the NFL, of the Giants, of sports in general. I played high school football 4 years. Didn't make it to college, though. Unfortunately, I wasn't that good. So don't roast me on that. Don't look up any highlights or any info on that. You ain't got no stats on me. So that was kind of how I came up. And then I'd say probably 2.5 years ago, I was just tweeting, just normal tweeting about the Giants, in-game tweeting, and built up this, momentum. And I'll be honest, a lot of it was defending Daniel Jones. Since Daniel Jones first came in the league, I had a belief in him. And when I was on Twitter and people would bash him, we would go at it. Like we would, you know what I'm saying? We would battle. And when you're out there, and you notice yourself, when you're out there on Twitter, someone doesn't have to be a content creator to be sharp. There's sharp individual fans out there, sharp as heck. So you got to be on point. So that really helped me, sharpen my skills. I then started working with Giants Rush. That's when me and you met. Me and you started working together. I was there for a couple of months. Right around that time, I met Patricia Trainer from Locked On Giants, and she took a liking to me and my content, and she gave me my own show, and it was an absolute blessing to have my own show as somebody that it was a fast ascension. It was kind of like one day I was just tweeting, and then the next day I had my own show. That's how it felt, even though it was longer than that.
Yeah.
And I've also been blessed to have a lot of support in the community from several different individuals out there. And this Giants community, whether you're a content creator, whether you're just a fan, this is the tightest community, the smartest community, most knowledgeable, passionate. There is no community like the Giants football fan content creator community.
Yeah, and I absolutely, like you said, right? It's easy to describe it as the overnight sensation scenario, but nobody sees the behind the scenes. Like, what's Tommy having to do, like you said, at 2 a.m. during my lunch break while I'm handling other business? I'm constantly on it. So,
Right.
quick shout out to Darius. Darius is quite possibly one of the best supporters in the community. Darius supports everybody, super chill. And he says, no highlights of Tommy. He's very upset. He definitely wants to see, definitely wants to see those 4 years.
Yeah, no highlights, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
shout out Darius. Darius is my guy, man.
Darius is
Darius
really
is one of the most passionate Giants fans, knowledgeable. Every time I have a live chat, Darius first one in there. That's my
always.
brother. I love you, Darius. I really appreciate you.
Yeah. Darius is definitely going to be on Kicking It. So watch your DMs, Darius. You got to be one of my people who gets on. So here you are now, Brooklyn, social media, own show. We have all these different avenues going on in that lifestyle. Tell me a little bit about your personal life. What do you do for a living? What is Tommy's day life before he becomes, industry insider content individual? What's part of your personal life happening?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I have a son. He's 20 years old. His name is Brandon. He's a huge Giants fan.
He
I
better
tried
be.
to get him into some content too, but he was a little bit reluctant. Maybe in the future, but he's bright, super intelligent. He's already a manager. He's 20 years old. Everything that he's tried, he's excelled at. Super hard worker, and that's my heart. My son is my heart. Married to my beautiful wife Megan, that's tremendously supportive of me in my quest in content. If it's busy and I can't get set up, she'll help me set up. She'll help me get everything going. So that's critical. Like, when we talk about doing content and having that marathon of work and content, putting everything together, that's cool. That's the top. The family support too. This time where I have to tell my son, hey, I know we're gonna go here. You got to give me a little bit. Let me get this done. I got to do these notes. Give me an hour or two. Same thing with my wife there. It's not easy, so you have to have that support inside your home. I love with this, something that's passionate to me, and that's my heart. Those are my hearts right there.
And nothing happens without support network. So shout out to Brandon. First off, you sure don't look like you're 60 years old. So to have a 20-year-old need a little bit of black backstory on what's happening there, because you're a young looking guy. So shout out to Brandon first and foremost, and then of course shout out to Mrs. Tommy G for all that support. Again, like you said, nothing happens on its own. I can at least empathize there in the same way. Where my wife is very supportive. We got 2 boys, a little bit younger, 10 and 12. They're also like, hey, listen, make sure you kill on the pod. Can I be on the pod? Who are you talking to? I want to get on it. They're excitable. They're a little bit younger. So from that standpoint, fully get it how to manage your parental responsibility, your day-to-day work responsibility, and then again, this venture. Now, speaking of this venture, I'm sure it's almost like Groundhog Day, right? It's draft cycle. Draft cycle feels like Groundhog Day every day. It's pick 25, who's going to be there? It's pick 25, who's going to be there? 97 million mock drafts later, you settle on these same 5 to 6 guys strictly based on mock drafts and a little bit of insider information that leaks, but more or less based on community mock drafts or analyst mock drafts. And they could be so far off the wall that it may not even matter for everything we've done in that scenario. So coming up with the draft, what do you see this organization doing? I'm sure there's going to be levels of here are the different options. What are the most realistic ones? Because that's the important thing. Forget the fantasy fodder of, oh, yeah, we're going to get Nolan Smith, who's supposed to go top 10.
Right.
or something of that, right? Give me
Yeah.
something realistic as what direction is Joe Shane and company headed in?
Yeah, and apologies if I'm glitching. There's a big storm coming through right now. I can hear it outside my window, so it might be tweaking with my Wi-Fi.
The good thing is I could hear you clearly, so it's all good.
Is the video? You can't see the video?
Just a little bit, but I mean, it's cutting in and out a little bit, but I can hear you clearly, and I'm happy with that. I got to hear what Tommy G has to say.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. It's a big storm, man. Storm's messing with the Wi-Fi. But listen, plain and simple, right? Just like you said, at this point right now in the draft prep, we've heard every scenario. We've heard every matchup. Every player, trade back, trade up, trade. You've heard everything. I'm standing firm on what I believe. The Giants have a couple players they target at 25. I do think wide receiver is the number one position they want to target. I mean, listen, there's no surprises there. They traveled around the country interviewing a bunch of these young receivers. That was the majority of players they talked to were receivers, right? So you see that intent there. Yeah, it's due diligence. Maybe some is smokescreen, but they put in that work around the receivers because they need another receiver. They got a bunch of complimentary guys. You got Parrish Campbell. You got Darius Slayton you brought on. Obviously, Darren Waller is more than complimentary. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. I think the Giants still want to go receiver. Between me, I would say realistically, it's going to be between Jordan Addison and Zay Flowers if it's the receiver the Giants go for. If that's the case, slightly have Addison ahead of Flowers. I think out of the top two for the Giants, Addison is just a little bit more of a complete receiver. Giants already have a receiver like Zay Flowers in Wan'Dale Robinson. Addison's a receiver that could get open at all three levels, super productive at USC. I think he fits perfectly in this Giants offense. When you look how the offense is run, whether it's kind of those short concept routes, drags, quick slants, short posts, whatever it is, I think Addison plays that perfect. Now, I do like Zay Flowers a lot. I'll be honest with you. It's a fine line for me because Zay Flowers is super explosive. And check this out. So a lot of people, when you talk about Zay Flowers, right, they'll say to you, well, he's 5'9" and he's 180. He's not going to make it in the NFL at that size. He caught over 50% of contested balls last year at Boston College. Everything he lacks in size and catch radius, he makes up for with his hands, aggression, fighting for the ball. And when this guy gets into open space, his rack is ridiculous. This is one of the most explosive playmakers in open space. So it's tough between the two receivers. If they're both available, that's another big if. I will go with Jordan Addison in that scenario.
I like that scenario. So here's what I'll bring. I should say a big proponent, but obviously I think we're getting not tired, but potentially a little bit of itis from the fact that we keep going off to the small stature guys.
Right.
In the NFL, small guys get hurt. Small guys don't have I want to say ability, but perhaps the longevity because of the fact that when they take a hit at a 160, 165 pound frame, it's different than the guy at 195, 185, whatever the case may be. But it seems like, number one, Joe Shane does not care about that in any shape, way, or form. So, I mean, he's told his hand numerous times that he does not care. The main thing that Joe Shane and company have identified is, can you separate? And really and truly, is that not really the name of the game? If you can't be covered, who cares what size you are? If somebody can't stop you from doing what you're doing, who cares? If you're not taking those hits because of your ability to be elusive and your ability to get open into space and be smart enough when to go down and when to go out of bounds, right? Kind of the thing that I would say the opposite of where it hurts a small quarterback. Small quarterbacks get hurt because they don't know to slide, right? You take those unnecessary hits. You can apply that across the board. So in that sense, as much as I want the big body guy, because I'm just kind of tired of the smaller stature guys, what's the point of the big body guy when he can't separate? It's kind of the knock on the big one, right? It's always contested. And look at Kenny Galladay. Kenny Galladay, not a separation guy at all, 50-50 guy. But even then, that didn't work out too well, and that'll be a 30 for 31 day as what the hell that happened on that scenario. But so you got wide receiver as your most likely.
Yep.
What's your kill me God? Why did this happen scenario?
Yeah, so before I get to that, you hit it right on the head with the X receiver, right? So the number one consensus X receiver right now in this class is Quentin Johnson, right? So when you look at Quentin Johnson's film, you see a lot of startling things, right? So you see he has the athleticism, he has the top end speed, he has the big body. but unfortunately, he's a body catcher, has a limited route tree, right? Sometimes struggles to get open off the line, can be jammed up despite his big body. So while Giants fans enamor themselves with this X receiver that, rightfully so, the Giants haven't had in a long, long time, right? Maybe Colin Johnson comes back healthy. I wouldn't bet on it, but maybe there's some drawbacks with that X receiver, and Quentin Johnson's a perfect example.
Sure.
So, go ahead.
No, go on, go
on. So that's my thing with the X receiver. Now, you said disastrous scenario.
Yep.
Honestly, man, it would be taking a running back at 25. I'm big against that. Got Saquon Barkley. I personally, you don't hear anything about Gary Brightwell. I liked Gary Brightwell. Obviously, he's not going to be a strong number 2 running back, but in spurts last season, I liked his cutting ability. I liked his acceleration. Even on kickoffs, I thought he started to get better as the season went along. If the Giants took a running back at 25, that would be tough to swallow.
And I like Breida as a compliment. He also
Yeah.
was very successful when he got play. I would say feel free to use them a little bit more. Give Barkley a little bit more legs for that fourth. Let him be as rested as humanly needed to interchange those pieces. Even keep the defense honest. Because if you're a defender out there who's strictly focused on, I can get to Saquon. Well, now I give you a little bit of changeup. Can you get the changeup guy a little bit?
Right.
So from that standpoint, absolutely. We got Brandon in the house. Brandon says Giants need a wide receiver that you can trust when it's 39 and you're down by 4. So the pressure's on. It's a big conversion. Who's gonna go get it? And as Tommy has said earlier, and Joe Shane, etc., it's about separation. Is the main thing you've gotten from the receiver aspect. The player they want to bring in as what they consider a mismatch is really not size based. It's speed and it's separation. So if you meet speed and separation, if you look at their upgrades, they're all speed, right? Bobby Okereke, speed. Paris Campbell, speed. Darius Slayton, Brock Beck, speed. So, I mean, Darren Waller, speed. They're emphasizing certain attributes, speed and separation, the ability to get through. So in that case, as much as I'm, not jumping up and down about the smaller receiver, I don't care. If that smaller receiver is producing, I don't care about your size. I care about your production. So between speed and separation, that's key paramount. We went to your oh God scenario, and that was a running back. I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. I think another oh God scenario would be an ungodly reach. For example, a guy potentially is more of like an end of the second, but if you don't take him, you won't catch him in the second type scenario. So you pseudo understand the reach, but you're not happy about it. But who's your sleeper pick? Who's the position person where you're like, nobody thinks it's gonna happen, but I can see this happening.
Yeah, that's good. And to touch on your point about the reach, that scares me too. Because in my opinion, anything after pick number 20 is a little bit of a crapshoot, especially in this draft, man. This is one of the, I don't want to say one of the worst drafts talent-wise, because I don't want to be, I don't want to act like that towards the players, because there's some super talented players.
Absolutely.
But man, this is a tough draft. So you're in a tough spot at 25. You don't want to reach. You're out of that top tier talent that usually kind of dwindles away between 15 and 20. And some guys you may be locked onto were second round guys. So, I heard an interesting tidbit that, the pick number 25, the team that originally held it hasn't used it since 2016 with the Steelers. Every other team has traded that number 25 pick. And that's a huge reason, because you're just out of range of the top tier talent. You're just too far up for that second round talent. And then the other teams, there's always that allure. I want to trade back into the first round. Maybe they didn't have a first round pick. Maybe they picked in the top 10. I got to get back in the first. I got to get back in the first. So don't be surprised if Joe Shane makes that move, trades back into the second or third, then trades back up from the later rounds. The Giants have 6 picks in the last 3 rounds. I don't see the Giants making all those picks, keeping all those players. So I would look for that. As far as a sleeper, there's a couple good ones out there. Position-wise, the center from Notre Dame. His name escapes me right now. I had it here somewhere. The center from Notre Dame is going to go like in the 4th or 5th round. Really liked him.
That's Jared Patterson?
Yeah, Jared Patterson. Yeah, really like Jared Patterson. He might go in the 4th, 5th round. If the Giants don't take a center early on, that's somebody they might take. Big guy, 6'5", 306, good technique, great football intelligence. If the Giants could get him fourth, fifth round, that's a steal because let's be honest, center is a big hole. And I know Joe Shane said, hey, we're fine at center. Jack Anderson's going to take some snaps. Ben Bredeson's going to take some snaps. To me, that was a smokescreen, in my personal opinion. Maybe not, but I think that was a smokescreen. I think the Giants definitely come out of this draft with a center. And honestly, you might not have to take one in the first couple rounds. If you can get Patterson from Notre Dame, you jump on that.
Yeah. The way I've been running my mocks is, where does need, BPA, everything match? A true BPA team is a stacked roster. That is what true BPA is, where I can just go ahead and pick the best player. It doesn't matter because I'm rinsing, repeating, and turning out. Teams that have holes only do so much BPA. They have to draft for need along with BPA. Because outside of that, then you miss it. Like, for example, if the BP is a quarterback, that's not happening, right? I'm not taking a quarterback. If my BP, like you said, is a running back, I'm not doing that right now. It's not necessarily a BPA strategy. So it's always a combination of. So when I've been doing my mocks or just looking at what's happening, what's not happening, the three positions or four I've been really concentrating on are obviously cornerback, wide receiver, center, and linebacker. Because I'd love to add another stud to that defense and just really just take it to the next level. Because one more stud to that linebacker core completely changes everything on that front seven, or depending on however they want to run their sub packages that Wink does. So I've generally been either going wide receiver or corner with the first, a lot more corner because there's always this wide receiver.
Yeah. Let's talk about corner for a minute.
Yeah, let's talk about corner. So I talked to DRC, right? And I asked
DRC, that was an amazing interview, my brother. I love that interview.
I appreciate that. So I talked to DRC, and I obviously brought up Forbes, in the sense where he's a $160 wet. DRC wasn't a big guy either, so he wanted to talk, right? My guy was like,
listen, it says 180.
Yeah, but we know it ain't 180. That boy like 175, 170 wet. So I asked him, like, look, what happens to a guy like that? And he says flat out, look, the skills translate, right? If he did it for 3 years, those skills translate. He has to be smart enough to, at the next level now, to adjust to speed and understand when to, when not to put your body on the line. But if your mental skills are sharp and you're a ball hawk, that doesn't stop. And he pointed out Dante Dion, who went and played with the Giants. If you remember him, small corner, went with the Rams, won a Super Bowl. What are your thoughts on Forbes or just the corners in general at this time?
Yeah, so to me, I have wide receiver and cornerback as far as need 1A, 1B. When you look at the Giants cornerback secondary situation, you have Adoree Jackson, who had a great year last season, was injured, had the unfortunate injury returning the punt. But Giants haven't jumped to restructure, extend him. That might tell you a little bit of insight into his future after this season. And then after that, it gets super, super murky for the Giants. You have Aaron Robinson on the other side as your cornerback too.
Who's produced nothing, by the way. We know nothing about Aaron Robinson. It's not a knock on him. We know nothing. We got one game, and it was mad, but we know nothing.
Right. He had the appendectomy, comes back right away, blows out his knee. Didn't play well in between, which is hard when you're in and out like that. Sure. But he's your cornerback too right now. So, you're going into the season and you're playing the Eagles and you got A.J. Brown on one side, Devonta Smith on one side. Robinson's covering one of those guys. So, not saying he can't do it, but we haven't really seen it. That's scary. You move over to the slot. You got Flott in the slot, right? Showed some promise at the end of the season. But again, very slim, smaller frame, but I have faith in him developing, but it's just question marks. You even go further into the secondary, right? You lose Julian Love to the Seahawks. Some people like Julian Love, some people didn't. Either way, he was top 3 in reps on the team.
Yeah.
A lot of question marks. So my personal opinion, I love Deonte Banks. Anybody that's a follower of Tommy's Takes follows me on Twitter. I love Deonte Banks, cornerback out of Maryland, super athletic, blew up the combine. He had a 9.99 RAS score. Phenomenal man, press cover corner. Wink Martindale would love him. I have him as my number one corner as far as, realistically who's going to be there. And then I have Forbes. Forbes had 6 interceptions last season, right? That was the same amount as the entire Giants team last year. Tied for dead last. So if the Giants could get either Banks or Forbes, I think it's a good deal. But just like you said, that slender frame, he played a physical brand of football in college. Yeah. He's not going to be able to play that same physical brand of football in the NFL at $170. He's going to be tossed around. Let him try that against A.J. Brown. So he's going to have to come in, have the right mindset, bulk up, get physical, work on his technique. But he is a ball hawk, man. He's basically a receiver in a cornerback's body.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna throw this question up. I'm gonna answer it real quick because again, I want to make this for the people by the people type scenario. So shout out to Brandon for being here. I like this question. Thoughts on Flock? Can you play outside and be productive? And I'm gonna say hell yeah. And here's why I'm buying so hard into Flock. And shout out to Joe Shane. My apologies because I was not a fan of the pick for two reasons. One, listed at 165, I believe, and I was like, come on, man. And then another slot corner, I was like, come on, man. Because you had Aaron Robinson, who played plenty of slot, and he came over.
Right.
And then you got Durag Darnay, and I have no idea what's happening with him. Durag
Dude,
Darnay's
I
hit
didn't
or
even
miss.
mention. I forgot to mention him, man. That's bad.
Yeah, Durag Darnay's hit or miss, but he's also going into his last year. So
Right.
the
Right.
one thing I saw very early with Flott is the kid's instincts for read and react are off the chain. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Reads, reacts, attacks. He did not look bullied. He did not look anything. Now he's got small hands. If you remember that Vikings interception drop,
Yeah, that was a
and
big
the
drop.
fact the small hands play a little bit into that. But I'd be more than happy to shift him outside and flip that coin. From my take, if that was the case in scenario, but then you get a little bit voided in that slot, right? The way these sub packages run today, nothing's traditional anymore. There's very few traditional positions. You might have
Right.
your traditional cornerback one, cornerback two. Everything outside of that is a toss up on how they want to run it. You'll see a
Right.
lot more. You'll see a lot more Dane Belton now,
Yep.
moving in on how they want to move McKinney and Belton with the loss of Love. Obviously, adding a talent like Okereke changes the way the defense wants to play. But I'm with you. Still so many holes, and I don't want to say they overachieved, but they moved a lot quicker in success than we anticipated. So from that standpoint, when you have that many holes, you can't really go wrong. Now, my nightmare scenario is like a tight end. And the reason I say that's my nightmare scenario is because between Waller and DGB, Bellinger, and then they re-signed the wide receiver turned tight end whose name I'm blanking on. Um, Shoot, I'm blanking on that guy, but y'all know who it is. So there's enough bodies in that room where just another tight end really just I don't know what it does necessarily other than make it elevates the room. Don't get me wrong, but just too many holes in other places. So I think if they go tight end, I'd be Cager. There we go. Shout out to
Cager.
Brandon.
Yep.
That wouldn't make too much sense to me. That's the one where I'd go. I don't know, but I will be very honest and say that I trust what this regime is doing, and if that's what they want to add to their wrinkle to their scheme, go ahead. You guys proved me wrong last year. I mean, so now the benefit of the doubt leverage goes on their side. So whoever their pick, I'm on board regardless. But I'd be a little bit remiss if it was that, or I'd be a little bit like, do we really need to take a D tackle? Even though I don't think it's off the board, because guess what? Leo Williams ain't coming back. Well, I shouldn't
Right.
say isn't. You can't guarantee he is. So there's always that replenishment as well. So some of those things that might be a sleeper in a good way might be let's beef up that line, and the bad way might be did you really need a tight end there? I don't know. So going to be very curious. 10 picks, you can't. I shouldn't say you can't make all 10, but how much of the roster can you turn over?
Yeah, that's tough.
How much youth can you keep bringing in? So hoping to see some movement. I'd be down for a trade up if something's there. It might be a scenario like you said. If you look at their top 30 visits last year, they ended up drafting 4 or 5 guys who hit their top 30. So there's a little indication on who they're. And like you said, if the wide receivers are sticking out like a big old needle, right? They're sticking out hard.
Mm-hmm.
So between that pace, I mean, it's exciting. I really hope it works in our benefit, and the dominoes fall in our favor. So as much as you've been paying attention to it, give me something else draft later. The first round is what it is. What happens in the third? Is there a guy like you said, a Jarrett Patterson that they might want to sneak in? Is there a player that you just this is Tommy's guy? He's a mid round guy. Man, I really want this guy.
Yeah. So first and foremost, let's be upfront. I think Joe Shane has done a great job. I think he did a great job his first year in the offseason. I think he's done a great job this offseason. He's filled several holes, middle linebacker, like you alluded to, right? He's got some depth along the D line. Love the Ashawn Robinson signing. I thought that was a big signing for the Giants' run defense. Obviously, 5.2 yards per carry given up last season for the Giants' run D, 31st in the NFL. So, let's be real here that Joe Shane, whatever's going to happen, I feel like he's going to come out on top, whether that's going to be a trade, whatever that might be, whoever he's going to pick. I think it's going to be this is probably the most important move so far he's going to make is this draft. I don't think it was the first draft. I don't think it was even the Daniel Jones contract. This is going to be critical because you still have holes, right? And The cap space has dwindled down. You have Dexter Lawrence eating up $32 million in cap space. That's tough. As far as sleepers, there's a bunch of them out there. I like Brandon Hill. He's a strong safety from Pittsburgh, 5'11", 195. Big physical hitter, excellent in run support. And I talked about this on Twitter. And, a well-known NFL person kind of came at me about it because I said, whatever defender you're taking in this draft, they need to be a strong run defender because the Giants got ran at a Lincoln Financial Field in the playoffs. If that game was 6 quarters, they would have gave up 600 yards rushing easily. Yep. And he was like, you don't build your team against the run. Well, it's not building your team against the run. I'm not saying draft 5 defensive linemen, but every player that you pick, whether it's a cornerback, a safety, interior defensive lineman, that run defense prowess has to be extremely important. I love Brandon Hill. He'll probably be a little bit later than the 3rd round, Zain. Gets his head around in coverage, athletic. Really, really like him as a safety. He could partner him up with Xavier McKinney, Dane Belton. Giants showed a lot of 3 safety looks. I would keep an eye on Brandon Hill, 3rd, 4th round, maybe even into the 5th. We'll see how it rolls out.
Another safety I like, just because you're on the topic, another safety I like, Ronnie Hickman, Ohio State. Another late guy that I think fits that mold, great size. So another one with you, Brandon Hill's also a good one. So you spent so much time with the draft. The draft's going to come and go. What's going to be next for you? What are your eyes on after that? For me, as soon as the draft is out, my mind's like, who are the UDFAs? Who are the guys that didn't get picked out that they're trying to sneak on because they didn't? Now with 3 7ths, you could kind of parlay that and, there's no one I really like right here. Let me treat it as a UDFA signing and just pick that guy up so I don't have to do it that way. Is that where you go immediately? Is your mind there? Or are you, let me take a deep breath and let me digest what's happening here? What's your next move?
Yeah, no. We definitely go there, right? Because the draft's over. Whatever they pick, if they keep their 10 picks, 9 picks, but you definitely go to fill that roster, right? A huge thing for me last season was the Giants roster just didn't have the depth. That hurt special teams. Players that should have been starting on special teams were actually starting on offense and defense. They were needed there, right? They were signing guys off the street, Jalen Smith, Fabian Moreau, right? You can go on and on and on. Marcus Johnson, when he was out there, there was about 7, 8, or 9 players.
Nick McLeod came over.
Nick McLeod. You had a bunch of players, let's put it this way, signed off the streets mid-season. Gerard Davis, another one. They re-signed him, which was awesome. He's going to be a nice depth piece and probably play some specials. You got to fill that roster out, Zain. You got to get those players 3rd, 4th, 5th string. And even when it comes to injuries, Giants, unfortunately, have been cursed with injuries. So, yeah, I go right to the UDFAs. Then, after that, you got that kind of big, long sleep, right? Once that's over with, and then you go into some of the training, meetups and stuff. But also Barkley. Let's look at the Barkley situation. Keep your eye on that. Let's see what happens with Barkley. So there's a couple different things we'll look at after the draft is over.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, I think D-line is such a great shape because now you can let, Lawrence and Williams go catch a breath real quick. And guess who comes in? 2 Super Bowl winners with the experience between Nacho and A'Shawn. Right. So that's the kind of, and no one expects Super Bowl, depth at every level, but you need capable depth where the drop-off is not a cliff. And that was happening last year. All the drop-off was a cliff. And for me, the biggest thing that still hasn't been addressed, and I really hope something happens in the draft, is edge rusher, right? There's nothing behind Kayvon Aziz. Guess who was coming last year? O'Shane Zimenez.
Right.
Nada. Tom Fox, nice little player. He wasn't really going anywhere as far as getting to the QB. Maybe like a play or two. You need more consistency regardless of
Ward. Jihad Ward, great against the run, but he's not that traditional pass rusher.
Yeah, shout out to Jihad Ward. Still has me blocked on Twitter. Don't know why.
Me too, bro. What's good with that? Like, we got to put together some type of petition. Like, I never thought bad to do it at all.
I need somebody to tell me what I did to Jihad Ward, except trash Philly. I know he's very, very Philly, and I trash Philly a lot, so that could be it.
Yeah.
But still shout out to Jihad Ward. I was such a big fan of the guy, and I'm still a fan regardless. You can block me all day, but I'm rooting for you. I'm happy to have you back.
Absolutely.
So, like you said, depth is extremely important. Made some good points. Like last year, they had to keep trading because maybe they needed bodies. Now I don't know if it's so much the bodies as much of let's get a little bit more quality over quantity. Not a knock for the previous draft, like you said. Money's a little bit tighter, so it's got to be smarter. Hopefully the Barkley thing doesn't get ugly. I think Barkley's way too professional to allow it to get ugly from that standpoint. He's a stand-up guy, so I don't expect that. In worst case scenario, if he plays on the tag, so be it. Priorities, right? We have to start accepting these non-emotional moves, which I think even the fan base probably got used to. That every move's emotional. John Marawan said,
Right.
"Okay, my heart, I can't let it go. I have to." It's got to be business, it's got to be productivity, it's got to be sustainable future, not for a year. Oh, we made the playoffs,
Right.
4 5, bring that back. So all that football talk is great. I know you got to run too, so I don't want to keep you forever, so I'm gonna just shoot some quick things at you, just a little bit about Tommy. What was your favorite moment of last season?
Well, that's a good one. Favorite moment of last season. Runner up would be the Tennessee game. I think the Tennessee game coming back late in that game, the 2-point conversion. I think that showed people this wasn't the same old Giants. Another runner up. Sorry, I'm gonna take up some time
No,
right
no,
here.
no, go for it.
The 4th and 9 versus Washington in the second Washington game. That dart that Danny threw to Richie James on that 4th down. That was a critical game. Giants probably don't make the playoffs without winning that game. That was a big play. But I would say if I had to pick one, I would probably pick the Vikings game, the last drive when the Giants tied it up, the touchdown Barkley had where he fought through. That was a huge drive when the game was tied. That was a big play for me. That was the best moment, winning a playoff game, right? I mean, doesn't get better than that. It's been what, 10 years, over 10 years since the Giants won a playoff game. So that final drive, that Barkley touchdown in the wild card game, doesn't get better than that.
Absolutely. Now let's go on the other side. What just made you, face plant? What made you go, kill me, God? Football God, at least.
Oof,
I mean,
man.
for me, it's just getting spanked by the Eagles, man. Like, I'll just
Yeah,
keep it
man.
real. That's hard to digest as much, smack as I talk about them, which I'll never stop, by the way. I'm never going to stop that.
Screw Philly,
So
man.
definitely, yeah. I hate everything about Philadelphia city. Most people, I know maybe like 3 people I like from Philly, if that. All your sports teams are trash. Um,
Dude, Philly fans are terrible. I put out a tweet the other day. It was you see that one where it's like, oh, what take do you have that's unpopular? And it has the guy like, stabbing the character. I said
yeah,
Jones was better than Hurts, just didn't have the support. Bro, I had at least 12, 15 DMs threatening me, cursing me out, looking up my stuff. Philly fans are the worst, man. And I hate
yeah.
the stereotype, but they're brutal.
There, quick tidbit. I had this thing on Twitter when Darius Slay was pseudo released, right? So I made a tweet about how life comes at you fast, bro. That night they waited 12 hours until he
I
got like.
remember that.
He said, bro, I was up for 2 hours from midnight to 2 a.m. just going back and forth with every single quote tweet because guess what? Y'all want the smoke? I'm here, baby. I got that for you. But just, I mean, some of them were just like wildly reckless. Like, what are we even talking about? Keep it
Yeah.
football, guys. Take a big deep breath. I understand I got this Napoleon complex thing. I understand nobody respects you, but it's really your fault nobody respects you. But moving on from those losers, um, the worst moment obviously for me was not being able to compete in that Philly game. I can handle losses. They didn't compete, so that was definitely the worst for me. Is there a moment where something just clicked for you watching the games? Like this is not the same team. What was that moment where something just kind of clicked? And for most people, it was Tennessee. But
Right.
that to me was a coaching decision. The player executed. That was a coaching decision. The biggest moment for me when I went, oh, this is different, is and kudos to Daniel Jones. I'm still not the biggest fan, but he's my guy because he's my
Don't
quarterback.
say the Green Bay game.
It had to be that
Come
drive, man.
on, man. That's why I
How is
see
it
this.
not?
Hold on,
How
hold
is
on,
it
hold on,
not
hold on,
that
hold on, hold on.
drive?
Hold on. This is why me and you can't do a show together because we think too much the same.
We
We're
got
gonna
the
be
same
saying
stuff.
the same answers, bro.
We
I
got the
knew you
same.
was gonna say that.
Also, shout out to Brandon. I had the teal on fire that night because I was going in with every Philly fan, and I'll never stop. They can come get me. But yeah, watching Jones operate, watching him operate without Barkley, watching him make the throws, make the runs, stay composed. I was like, hold on. This is not the same guy. You can't just tell me supporting cast. I saw him playing differently. So I appreciated that confidence, and I was like, okay, let me see where he goes from here. But definitely a different twinkle in the eye, if you will.
Yeah, I'll use a different one since you used that one. I'm gonna go with the first Minnesota game, going in there on that Saturday, taking them to the buzzer basically, right? Losing the last second field goal. That was the moment for me where I was like, you know what? Not only is this team good, but this team is good enough to compete at a high level. Should have won that Minnesota game. Had a lot of BS in there, But that first Minnesota game showed me that this team was ready to compete. They were going to get to the playoffs, and they were going to be able to compete in the playoffs to a certain
Absolutely.
extent.
And shout out to Becca. If you don't know, her and Daniel
Becca,
Jones
I love
are
Becca.
married. If you look at her Twitter, they're definitely married. He just doesn't know it. So shout out
Becca
to
is the best. Becca,
Becca's a big
Darius,
supporter
I love
too.
you
Yeah,
guys. I see my boy Hit Squad was in here. What up,
yeah,
Hit?
his squad's up here. Like, appreciate supporter. I got some of my frat bros in here. Appreciate everybody. Mark is always in here. He's multitasking, but he's here. So again, always appreciate any support, no matter what it is. Without the community, there's nothing. There's nothing anyway.
Exactly.
And so, I will say this. Two more questions. I'll let you go.
Yep.
One question: What do you love most about the Giants community? When you're either on Twitter, social, whatever. What do you enjoy most about the community?
Yeah, it's a great question. You just kind of touched on it, the support. That's big for me. Another big thing is diversity. So, as someone that is coming up under a female analyst in the game, Patricia Trainer, she was one of the first female beat reporters for the Giants. I think our female content creators, fans, whatever it is, need to be included more, need to be recognized more. I always try to give them shout outs. We literally have the most inclusive group, fans, content creators, and we all support each other. That's what really makes this group special. There's nobody turning on each other. There's no nonsense, no jealousy, stabbing in the back. We all work together. This is a tight community. That's what makes it really special.
Now, on the other side, what's the worst part about Giants Twitter? What's the worst part about that Giant community? So
Damn, I'm gonna air this out real quick. I'm
it's kind
glad
of like
you asked that.
how much time we got, right?
Nah, we got time now. We got time. Today I got time, cuz I'm gonna air this one out.
Mhm.
So the haters are definitely the worst part of Giants Twitter. Now I get it. I had some really, really brutal battles defending Daniel Jones the last 2-3 years. Some people can't forget that, right? So I get it, but I had put out a link a couple days ago. It was a survey to say, how do you like, Tommy's show, Tommy's takes? Because I'm all about self-reflection. I'm all about feedback. You can never improve if you have a bunch of yes people around you saying everything is great. You're amazing. You're going to be on ESPN. You can never win like that. That's not how it works. You need to constantly move up. So we put the survey out, which I was kind of at first I was like, I don't know if it's a good idea, but I'm willing to do anything to continue to improve and give the best viewing experience. And bro, they was saucing me in those surveys, man. Like if I could show you some of these surveys, you wouldn't even be able to show it on YouTube. That's how bad it was. Like I'm not gonna get into the specifics, but a lot of jealousy, a lot of why him, why does he have his own show, a lot of that type of nonsense. When you should love me. Let me look at the camera. You should love me because I'm one of you. I came up just like one of you would love to come up. And you know what? Don't envy me because I work hard and I work my ass off for what little bit I have. And I go after it. So nothing was handed to me. Did I get my own show? Yeah, I did get my own show. But at the end of the day, I write the show, I produce the show, I edit the show, I post the show. That's all me because I love doing this and I love the Giants, and I love Giants fans. But when you guys want to come at me, just remember, you're coming at one of your own. If you don't like the content that I put out, I respect that. I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. There's sometimes I put stuff out. I'm like, I should have did a little better, a little more work. I respect that if you don't mess with me like that. But when you go out of your way to hate on somebody that was just like you, that reflects poorly. And I think the community needs to be better because I see it happening to other creators. And they're so quick to jump on these creators. 95% of these creators don't make a single penny. They just want to put out content for the fan base. They want to have a platform to communicate and connect with you. So remember that when you go out of your way to hate on these creators, they put a lot of work in for very little.
Yeah, and shout out to Tommy for that. That's just what it is. People take out time, effort, create these spaces for people to engage, have a space. That's part of the community build. Whether you're, an actual titled content creator or somebody who just tweets. If you're within that community, always support each other. I love talking to everybody. It doesn't matter if you got 1 follower, 100 followers, 100,000 followers. That's not what this is about. It's about being able to interact, have your voice heard, have your opinion heard, and having all that. And like you said, yeah, the community has some of those downsides because there's too much good content out there to not be supporting each other. Doesn't kill anybody. Be like, hey, good job. Yeah, I checked that out. That was nice. So we always want to make sure that we're doing our best to welcome people and not alienate them. Because I think Tommy hit it best. Everyone started at the same spot, regardless of whether they have a show, not a show, if they have 15 followers or 5,000. If you do it for a passion and love, just embrace each other. And that's the best part about this community. The embracement far supersedes all the negativity. But don't act like that negativity ain't there. And usually it is. I ask people this all the time. You guys are so crazy, Daniel Jones, on some of these takes. What would you do if there was Twitter during Eli's early days?
Oof,
You would be on
mm,
suicide watch.
that'd have been
Suicide
brutal.
watch. I remember those days. It was rough. And even when he won that Super Bowl, there were people ready to fire and noose him up. Don't
Dude, they
think
were
that
burning his jersey. Remember,
yeah,
they were burning Eli Manning's jersey
yeah.
in the Meadowlands parking lot, bro.
Wild. So don't be that fan. So now I know Tommy's got to go. So I'm gonna give you some parting words. Let us know what you're doing. Let us know where to catch you next. How do we follow Tommy G? Where is Tommy Takes? What's next for you? What do we need to tune in on? And more or less some parting words for the community and how you enjoyed kicking it.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, thank you, Zain, for having me on, giving me this platform. It means a lot to me to be able to support you in your solo endeavors. You've always been a talented creator. You know, I
Appreciate
always thought you would do great on your own. So thank you. Appreciate you. Quick in the chat, Darius, Brandon, Becca, John. I see John in there. My boy Hit. Everybody out there. There's no me without you. I appreciate you guys and gals. You mean the world to me. I have my own show on the Giants Country YouTube. It's called Tommy's Takes. I do 2 shows a week. Usually it's on Monday, Thursday, as long as everything plans out right. Starting to do some interviews now. Last week I interviewed my mentor, Patricia Trainer. I have some cool stuff coming up next week. Make sure you get Zain to 100 subs.
I'll
Get that
take
in
it.
there real quick. You could also catch Tommy's Takes on Spotify. Hit that download button. It means the world to me. Twitter, Tommy G105. And I'm ready, man. I'm ready for the Giants to rock this tomorrow night and to keep improving this roster and pushing forward.
Yeah. Make sure you subscribe to Tommy's YT, his YouTube channel. Make sure you got the notifications on. Go check it out. Listen, if he's putting out 30 minutes and you give him 3 minutes, that's 3 minutes of some value you could take away to have a conversation with Tommy. Tommy's not one of those content creators you can't reach. You hit him up, he'll respond. When he says he's one of us, he literally is. So he's out there available for the community. And those are the kind of people you want to talk to, the real ones from the start to finish. So I appreciate Tommy. I'm going to let Tommy go right here. And I thank him for being on episode 2. And I appreciate everybody. And I'm going to be deuces too. Catch me episode 3 coming up next week. I already got guests lined up through May. We're going to have more people coming on from the community to have a great time. So thank you, everybody. Have a safe night. Have a great night. And I appreciate everybody coming in. Have a great night.